Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow. And in today's episode, I'm going to cover conventions, okay? Now, I just went to this Anime Evolution 2019, okay? And so, the recent convention that we've had here in Vancouver. And, and basically got an idea of what, how modern, anime conventions have gone. And so what I want to do is I want to contrast some of the things that what a modern convention does, as opposed to what a shall we say an anime convention during the golden era of anime does, and the good things and bad things that sort of occur. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow up with the episode in the future with more episodes, bringing in some nostalgia, some some of the old convention booklets, some pictures, and of course more stories from the old conventions, and contrast against what we do with conventions nowadays. Okay, so right off for the first thing when you go into conventions, of course, one of the main features that conventions do is they have what they refer to as a dealer's room, or or in a lot of cases what they do is an artist alley, and and in the past, a lot of people go to conventions for the main purpose is that you would go to the convention because that was the place you would go to get your anime. And what I mean by that is that the anime itself, okay, both the animation and of course the music and all that kind of stuff, was not easily obtainable over the internet because the internet wasn't fast enough. You couldn't stream it, you couldn't download it off the internet because the files were too big and the internet was too slow. So conventions used to be the place where you had to go to the convention to either go to a viewing room to see the anime, to purchase the DVDs or video cassettes or laser discs. You had to go and buy the CD soundtracks and that kind of stuff, and that's where you went to go and get your merchandise, your posters, and that kind of stuff. So the majority of the convention floor would be full of vendors selling Japanese merchandise and things of that nature, okay? Where in contrast, for example, at this latest convention I went to, almost the entire convention floor is basically the equivalent of the artist alley. Most of the content and that kind of stuff in the convention is all fan built and fan drawn and fan produced, okay? We're only virtually down to basically one aisle is basically the aisle that actually contains people that selling actual merchandise, actual Gundam kits, actual music CDs, so a person actually selling doujinshi, for example. And so this really comes to the cause of why is there such a big change? I mean, again. It's not to say that we seem to have less anime fans. Indeed, we actually probably have more anime fans than we used to have. But the anime industry, ever since the crash, anime has been struggling. And why? You think, well, why should it be struggling? I mean, anime has more presence, and it should have more anime fans than it had before. Yes, it does, and I have to agree. The problem is and the anime convention, goes and shows this, is that the anime conventions have shifted from basic being about the anime, the obtaining of the anime, the need to get the anime and anime goods, based on the anime. It switched from that to, of course, which is something more that the millennials now have, focus on, is the me generation. Me, my, and I. Okay, the things that are available on the convention and the things that are in the convention are all personal things. Okay, it's all about how well I can draw, how well I can perform, how well I can make or craft my own things. I make my own posters. I can make my own coffee mugs. I can make my own cloth posters like this. I make my own prints. I Photoshop my own things. I'm going to put decals on my own car, and basically, yeah, I'm going to manufacture and knit my own, merchandise. I can make buttons. I can make my own pins. I can make cell phone covers, and I can do all these different things based on basic anime and and related sci-fi types things, and then basically, you can even go to superhero things and that stuff. But the problem is, none of this stuff is actually licensed by the actual manufacturers. They're all fan made, or they're made, in the likeness of said things, but they're not from the particular company. Now, in the old days, of course, people were always worried about, oh, well, these are all bootlegs, and you got to watch out for people, making their own copies of video cassettes, or pulling posters out of magazines and then just selling the posters by themselves, or taking a book and photocopying pictures and stuff out of the book and making them into posters and that kind of stuff, or going down to Chinatown and getting those poster prints and that kind of stuff made. They're all considered bootlegs, right? But now, where that was the big thing that has been shunned or being criticized. Okay, now in the modern day, that's perfectly welcomed. It doesn't matter that you are drawing the likeness of Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball, because it's your own drawing or that kind of stuff. They allow it, of course, right? And not the fact that, because you're using the likeness or the image of Goku or Sailor Moon, and you're making, bed sheets and, cloth posters, you're selling, Photoshop prints and that kind of stuff for, $20, $50, $60 a piece, in the likeness of Dragon Ball, Pokemon Go, Sailor Moon, and that kind of stuff. That's perfectly fine, because it's considered fan-drawn fan art and that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter that you've made 60 copies of the thing and you're selling them at $50 a piece. That's fine. And that is also a big problem, because this gives you the illusion that, yes, there are a lot of anime fans and lots of, shall we say, fans of anime and that kind of stuff, and, you think you're supporting anime in itself. But you realize that all this, fan-made artwork and all these, prints and copies that you made, and all these, buttons that you press, and all these pins that you make, and all these, stained coffee mugs, and all these prints that you're printing up and sticking on your car or your bumper sticker. You see, none of the original companies and the original artists are making any money from these sales of these fan-made goods, including Clawsplay, by the way. They're not making any of it. So to the bookmakers and to the actual artists and that kind of stuff, the old phase, the starving artist, they're still starving, because none of the real proceeds that you made or you've done and sold at this convention do they ever get. And so people wonder, well, why is the anime industry struggling? This is part of the reason why. The new millennial generation is not spending any money and none of this money is going back to the original companies, the artists and that kind of stuff. Okay. Now, I'm not saying everybody does it. Okay. In the case of the convention I just went to, one aisle had actual legitimate merchandise and that kind of stuff. The other, shall we say, 7 aisles that didn't. Okay. And so you go through this is a little flyer sheet or whatever of the the different schedule and that kind of stuff, and you can see that they actually have a little map of the convention floor here, and you can see that it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 aisles of different things. I'd have to say maybe 2 of the aisles actually had legitimate merchandise and things that you could actually buy and that kind of stuff. And the other 6 aisles worth of stuff is all fan generated or fan created or miscellaneous other stuff that really as I said, would fall in that category of does not help the anime industry kind of things. Okay. So that's one thing that sort of happened in the anime industry that has changed. Okay, the second thing that a lot of these conventions have and do is what I've shown on the back page here. It's the what was referred as content. Now, obviously, when a lot of people come to an anime convention, you would go to the anime convention to participate in, shall we say, fan activities. Because obviously one of the things that a lot of people go to the anime convention for is to get merchandise and, to buy merch. So I already covered that, obviously, and some of the difference in the dealer's room that you get nowadays as opposed to before. But obviously now the new thing about the convention again is fan participation, the celebration of anime, as it were. Okay, and of course a lot of people have taken this to mean, well, I'm going to cosplay as an anime again. You don't have to. Not to say that cosplay is something new, but it has turned into its own turnkey industry. The whole entire concept of building costumes, repairing costumes now, accessories to the costumes, selling things for example, weapons for the costumes and that kind of stuff, repairs to costumes or accessories to the costumes like jewelry and hats, masks, things like that. All that stuff is almost another cottage industry that sort of popped up. And again, this does give the illusion that yes, there are a lot of anime fans, a lot of cosplayers, lots of people who are willing to do their own thing. But again, this whole me movement means it's not about the anime and that kind of stuff. No, it's about me and my crafting skills, my cosplay skills. Please look at me on Instagram with my costumes and all this other stuff. So it's all me. They're merchandising themselves, not the anime. And again, what does this do to the person? For example, doing Dragon Ball. Yep, you do a good Goku cosplay, do a good Sailor Moon cosplay, but you see those people drawing the manga and the people making the anime, they aren't making any money from your cosplay. Okay, yet you're using their product, you're using their characters, their likenesses, and you're promoting yourself using one of their vehicles, but they're not making any money on that. And again, that's sort of one of the sad state of how anime is nowadays, and it's well celebrated at a convention like this. But to get back to content, usually one of the things that usually happens when you go to a convention is that obviously you go to the dealer's room, look around, see what's there's to buy some of the stuff that you've been always looking for. Again, if you can't find it, no big deal, because that's what the internet's for. Go to eBay, go to Amazon, whatever. A lot of places are selling that kind of stuff. Not a big deal, right? So, also, so hopefully you find some good stuff there. If not, then you go out there and then you go to the, your list here and you see all the various different things that you can do. Now, one good thing that a convention does, okay, and I was saying that everything on modern convention is bad, but one of the things that a modern convention should do and should concentrate on is things that you couldn't do online. Right? I mean, a lot of us here, all streaming our videos online. They're all downloading them using torrents, or you're subscribing to a service like Crunchyroll or whatever, or Crave or whatever, and you're just watching all and streaming all your anime off that. That's great. Okay, that is perfect. I mean, that's what you want to do. You get into those subscription services. At least they're going to get some money from the licenses when you do that. Okay, so continue to do that. That's one way to support anime when you do that. Okay. But one of the things that that a convention should do is they should offer a fan experience that can't be experienced online. Meaning that online you can do all this various sort of stuff. You can take pictures of yourself in the cosplay and that kind of stuff. But to actually go to a place and show off your cosplay thing, to show off your anime idol singing skills, to interact with other anime fans in anime games or whatever, you should offer that sort of that sort of environment and that sort of content for anime fans. And that's what usually most anime conventions, by having some sort of schedule like this, will let you do. Now, the other thing that's always happened, and again, partially because of the venue that they've picked. They've picked the Vancouver Convention Center. It's very expensive to rent rooms and different areas and space in this sort of environment. So they're kind of limited on how much content or how much room they can do for content on this. And that's one of the things that I've noticed on a lot of these larger scale conventions is that. Sure, you go out and you finish the the dealer's room, and then of course you want something to do, so you look on the table and you look at things. Oh, okay, let's see what interests me and that kind of stuff. And so you look to see what other things that you can do. As you can see by the colors marked on here, they kind of sort of color-coded what sort of the events are and what kind of things that they have available. Other than the main event and the shall we say the panel rooms, okay, these things only have 3 different panel rooms, meaning that if you and aside from the main event that goes on in the actual convention, so that's usually your cosplay contest, your singing idol contest, and things like that. Those are the premier content, premier things that people can do, and you can go and watch. But if you're not interested in those things, there's really only 3 other panels that that you can do on these things that you can do, which is kind of limited because, as I said, in the older days. And even when we had the conventions at the universities and stuff, you were able to have more rooms of different content and more things, even up to 6, maybe even up to 8 rooms of different panels and things, interviews and workshops and that kind of stuff, all going on at once, so that it kept the convention goer people occupied. Because what you don't want is a lot of people sitting around waiting for things, sitting in the, basically in the hallways and just milling around waiting for stuff, to happen. Okay, standing in line. I mean, I'm standing in line and waiting for certain panels. That's obviously a constant thing that will happen. But the problem is that if there's nothing else to fill the content in between, you end up finding a lot of people just sort of wandering around. Inside the convention center. What ends up, if it was a nicer day outside, then I'm sure that usually happens in previous years, especially at the convention center, is a lot of the cosplayers go outside, close to the waterfront and whatnot. It was just always interesting because all the tour ships and that kind of stuff come in. So basically, you imagine all these people getting off a huge, tour ferry from, obviously, let's say Holland or England, and they get off, and all of a sudden you see all these all these young girls all dressed up in Sailor Moon costumes and Final Fantasy costumes and all this stuff. Like, going, what the hell is going on here? And that's like, some people go, hey, can I get a picture of you? Yeah, this is great, whatever. It's like, okay, that always happens, and that always, it's always funny and entertaining when you do that in a downtown setting. But that's usually what ends up happening, is that people then start kind of using the opportunity to go outside for lunch and wandering around, wasting time elsewhere outside of the convention because there's nothing happening in the convention. So that's always another issue that a lot of the modern conventions have, is trying to get enough content to keep the people who pay the money to be interested and maintain to be interested. Okay. The other major content, the thing that's always changed, is the last 2 rows on this column are what they refer to as viewing rooms, okay? And this is an outdated concept. It's especially at a modern day convention, this is almost a waste of space. The reason is because, the era of needing to go to an anime convention to see anime has probably long passed. I mean, we are all familiar with how anime and how, for example, how streaming services, how Google works, how YouTube works. Okay, if I needed to know, for example, what Cardcaptor Sakura looks like, I'm sure I could quickly type in that in a Google search engine, and something will pop up and it will show me what that is. Or if I'm subscribing to one of these services, I can definitely get that. And I'm interested in getting a copy of the DVD or that kind of stuff. I don't need to pay, $60, $70 for a day pass in order to go into the convention to watch Cardcaptor Sakura on one of these rooms, right? Again, in the older days, I remember conventions in the SFU where we had up to 4, up to 5 viewing rooms, and the viewing rooms would be full of different people, especially with some of the, for example, one of the hottest releases that we had at the time, which was like Macross Plus Volume 4. That place was just packed with people because they had no way to download or look at this anime. They couldn't rent it. The DVD wasn't out yet, so. It was very, very, the niche and key thing, the place to be was to go and watch, Macross Plus, at this convention, because this is going to be, the way to see it right then and there. We just fan subbed it, bam, there it was on the large screen. You can see it. in a kind of, in a lecture hall theater at SFU, and boom, that was a premier thing. Nowadays, not so much, the people get to, just like, hey, I'm just going to download it, or I download it, I watched that, who cares, whatever, oh, I know about Cardcaptor Sakura, yeah, sure, I'm not going to waste, an hour of my time at this convention watching it, I'm just going to, I'll just download it or torrent it, I'll just bookmark it, whatever, and, you'll see it. So, the old kind of concept of the video room is probably a little outdated, in the modern convention. But it's nice to know that, that sort of thing happened and was a really big thing in the past, okay? Now, the other big, issue that, I've always had, in these conventions and that kind of stuff is guests, okay? Now, again, when you look at these, this little schedule here, and then, they have a little thing on this bottom part, which gives you sort of, reminders or autograph sessions and that kind of stuff, right? Again, it really contributes to the, to the me generation again. So it used to be that, an anime convention really focused on a major Japanese artist or a major Japanese guest. And that way, when that guest came, the person will have a lot of things and a lot of merchandise available for that person, to come out. So, for example, when I went to Anime America, to 1994, where Akimi Takada was going, here it is. She comes, and then I basically, as I showed in the previous episode, I brought my, my Orange Road DVD box or Lasers box sets here, and I brought the books in there to get them to get signed, because obviously, you don't want to be that guy bringing in like a bootlegged cloth poster that has the word Orange Road written on it in Chinese and it doesn't even say freaking Orange Road. You can't give that to her to sign, right? And you can't get some fan artist to as well as you can, thank you, Cyrus, for, making, this great Photoshop picture of Orange Road, of Madoka and Hikaru sitting on the sofa in my store. I can't, print that onto a piece of paper at Staples and then bring it to her and say, hey, can you sign this picture? Yeah, but they're going to throw me out of there. Jeez, what kind of BS is that, right? You can't do that. So, so if that happened, modern day today, and you're gonna say, yeah, we're gonna bring, Kimi Takada to, let's say Anime Revolution, and bring stuff to sell, half the people in the millennials here will go, well, I don't have anything, I can't buy anything, because you go to the dealer's room, there's only like one aisle of stuff, and most of them, the stuff in that aisle has no CDs, has no DVDs. They don't sell art books. Like, what are you going to get? Maybe you're lucky, you might find a poster, okay? Yeah. And then they're going to pose the question, well, is this a real, authentic poster? Or is this just some person, just taking a picture out of one of these books, for example, and throwing it onto a photocopy machine over at Staples and making it really big and saying, oh, yeah, see, this is your poster. Yeah, right. And then, trying to get her to sign it. Like, what the hell's that, right? So, I think that's also why, the whole entire concept of getting a guest artist has really not materialized. And, of course, the cost of things like getting a guest artist like that, is really expensive. Because, I'm sure that people would love it if, we can get the artist for Orange Road, the artist for Sailor Moon, the artist for Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, whatever, that'd be great to bring them into that, but they can't, because, as I said, the material, no one's buying manga, no one's buying their CDs, no one's buying the DVDs, no one's buying art books, okay? Posters are not available for Orange Road anymore. This stuff is just not there. And it's kind of sad. That's just, the way that the industry has gotten. And, I don't know how to make it better. And, people always wondering why, anime is as proliferate as people know it is now, isn't getting better, isn't getting bigger. The genre is somewhat, fragile, not sustainable. But That's not the convention's fault. That's just the way the life system is. So anyway, so those are just two topics I wanted to cover about conventions. In the future episodes, I'm going to get into more, things about the actual guides and that kind of stuff, and I'll bring some pictures and that kind of stuff out of how the convention was, and you can kind of get an idea of some of the pictures and some of the scenes, and get into some of the stories around how conventions are run and how things, because that's a whole topic in itself. Okay, so what you want to go do is go down below, click like, click subscribe, and I will get more episodes when they come out, right? So, until next time, see you again.